The following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin. Hey everyone, I'm Christine, and this is 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks for joining us again today. As you see, I am by myself at the moment, only because Steve was unable to join us today, and I have a very special guest that I'm going to bring on now. So his name is Paul Antico. He is actually the brother of a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for 14 years, and I met Paul through Denise. And let me tell you a little about Paul and why he's here today. Today is part 2 of our psychedelic. Is it medicine or is it just getting high? Paul is a trauma-informed somatic practitioner and facilitator with a focus on developmental attachment and ancestral trauma. He works with a range of modalities, including Rosen method, body work and movement, compassionate inquiry, medicine dance, and the polyvagal theory-based safe and sound and rest and restore protocol. Paul is also trained in psychedelic somatic interactional psychotherapy that's called PSIP, which he has modified and offers as a distinct body-based therapeutic option called regional somatic tuning. He has also founded in 2018 Akasa Journeys. He has guided more than 150 full-day psychedelic journeys, offering individualized, in-depth support rooted in care, attunement, and embodied presence. His work emphasizes co-creation, emotional safety, and the innate intelligence of the body, whether or not psychedelics are part of the process. Paul also remains an active contributor to the psychedelic community, serving as an integration circle facilitator and former managing director of Psychedelia. He might have to correct that. Integration, a nonprofit offering education and support around psychedelic healing. Let's bring Paul on, and he can tell me if I said that really badly or not. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Christine. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
You are welcome. You know, what's crazy is that the second journey that I had, the very next day, I was really struggling with it. And I had a very good friend who was having a birthday party. And though I was exhausted from the event of a whole week of events that I did for my new job, I knew something was calling me to go. Like, I kept thinking, I'm too tired. I'm sure she'll understand. And I just kept getting this feeling that I needed to be there. And when you walked in the door, Paul, I immediately knew the reason why I needed to be there. Because after I talked to you about my first and second journey with the psychedelics, you were able to help me process that day so much smoother and more easier than I was doing on my own. Just being able to communicate with you and your different way of having that insight. So first, I want to say thank you, because I really don't think I could have continued to handle it on my own. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for trusting me with that, and it's my pleasure. It's what I like to do. Support people on their journeys, right? However that shows up.
Well, you are really good at showing up. And, I just know that from, knowing you throughout these last 14 years through Denise, just being at all the family functions and parties, but also as a, a person who helps people with the facilitating of their psychedelic journey, I think this is just a really incredible path that you've gone on, and I love it. And I'm really grateful you could be here today. So tell us more about what it's like to be a facilitator, but also I really want to talk today about the actual journey, talking about how to prepare, what's important to know, and why you should have a facilitator when you're starting out on this journey, because I should have and did not. And now I know I should. So that'll change. But I do want to go through the process, the steps of before, during, and after, and why these things are really important.
So before the journey, the thing that I like to start with every single person is why do you want to do this? What is your intention is another way to say that. What draws you to psychedelics or whatever it is? It doesn't even have to be psychedelics, but what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And I try and focus always, that is like the sort of the guiding light, and everything's tailored to that. So it depends on what someone's purpose is, because you can have a more like, I'd like to have a mystical experience, or I'd like to work on my trauma, or, some people just want to do things like in the business community, maybe I want to get more creative or something like that. So there's a lot of different reasons. And then, I would approach it differently. And one thing that's really interesting is that no matter what the reason is that you say, it doesn't mean your trauma is not going to come like perking up. Hello.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you that. I was going to say, how often is it really, though, when we set an intention, that intention is actually what is met, that it's not something else that comes through that's needed that we don't even realize?
Yeah, exactly. You can have your intention, and then ideally in the session, you let go of that. And if you're having a hard time, you can always bring that back as an anchor. This is why I'm doing this. But in general, you want to let it go, and your intention may or may not be directly realized, or it's often realized, but in maybe a more indirect way. So as people, you probably heard, people say, you don't get what you want, you get what you need. And it's a little vague, that kind of a statement, just because, well, you could say that about anything that happens. Well, that's what you needed.
Right.
And so I like to be a little more, thoughtful about it. And it's like, whatever happens, you want to be able to relate it to your life somehow.
Right.
And how does it fit in? Because it might show you what gets in the way of your intention. Rather than, here it is, we're going to give you, a taste of it. We're going to give you instead a taste of what's blocking it.
Great. So when you prepare people to do this type of journey, what is there some major steps that they should be taking? Are there things that you discuss like ahead of time so you know what potency or what kind of thing to do? Is this a thing that you have to do first?
Yeah, I always like to have at least one pre-session, I call it, before the session, where, we talk a lot about, some of it's logistics, which is getting into, well, there's a lot of music playlist choices. We definitely talk about dosage, which has a lot to do with what their intention is, how much experience, if any, they've had with psychedelics, their own comfort level, a sense that I get from talking to them as far as the dose. And then, it's really playing with their intention a lot. And so what I like to do, well, first of all, there's a bit of education involved. I tell people that what you're doing, in a sense, is you're opening the locked door of your unconscious, right? To get at some of the stuff that's been difficult to get at other ways. Right. And not that you can't get at it other ways, but it's a little bit more, facilitated, faster.
I see that.
But it's like, imagine you have this locked closet, and like, I got to get in here, and I lost the key or something. And so you get in there finally with the psychedelic key, let's say. But now you have to deal with everything that's in there. And people don't think about that as much. It's like, I just want to open the door. And it'll all, no, you actually don't want to open the door too fast either, because then everything comes pouring out, and it's too much too fast. You overwhelm your system completely. So.
Yeah, I learned that. I'm a balls to the wall, go big or go home kind of gal. And I went big. And because I thought after 3.5 years, almost 4 years now of working on myself and growing to love myself and all these amazing things that I've done in my healing journey, I thought that this would be a cakewalk. I really did. I thought it'd be a cakewalk. I thought I'd opened that door and cleaned out everything, but I didn't know that there was a false panel in the back of my closet and that it was a completely different walk-in closet. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was wild for me.
It's really, we have to think of it in terms also of how did we get those feelings of lack of self-worth? And that, speaks to attachment and trauma and all of our early childhood.
Yeah.
And so we have to respect that, it's like we want to honor our own wounds. And so part of that is to realize also how long were we in that environment where we were getting that message. It's a long time. It's very absorbed. And it's not like a simple, okay, one psychedelic journey, you're healed. That would be awfully nice because,
wouldn't it?
I'd be enlightened a few times if that was the case. But not yet.
Truly.
So, so that's a piece of the puzzle where we underestimate. A lot of people say, well, I've already worked through that. And then it's a psychedelic journey or something will happen. And they'll be like, oh, I guess I didn't completely work through that.
Exactly.
So it's good to have like a respect is what I'd like to call it for your own process, for where you are, for where you came from, and for the psychedelic, which can, like I say, it can open up too much too fast. That's where some people get destabilized. They're like, oh, everything's not, fitting well anymore. So.
Well, I think that I didn't realize that there were layers, like your skin, your body has layers to it. There's layers to the skin, the fat, the muscle, the tendons and the bone. I just thought that my brain, the healing was just like, oh, I've done the work. I'm doing the healing. I'm growing. I'm doing great things. I just thought that was it. I didn't realize that there really is more layers to trauma that there is. And I guess I probably wouldn't have gone into it the way that I had if I'd had that kind of consultation with somebody. I think that, I would have handled it a little differently, obviously, but you know what? I did it the way I did it. And I am very proud of how I am now. After it, the enlightenment that I've been getting, the changes in my life that has been happening are amazing, but I do think that it should have been done a different way. I know that.
Well, it definitely opens you up. And one of the things that can be very helpful, which is what you're talking about, is even if you have a journey that's a little, too much, maybe having good processing available afterward can really make a difference. Because if someone's just left to spiral out and continue, that's how things go off the rails further,
Right.
So that's an important piece, what people call loosely integration.
Integration. For me, it was, I was doing the same methods that I had done the previous time, the week before, for the integration. But the problem is that deeper, different trauma based things were coming out. And like we had talked about, I didn't know how to process it properly. You coming at it at a different angle than I could see it really helped flip that narrative for me.
Yeah, thank you. It's the perspective, a lot of it is because we can get trapped in our own, it's like when we're stuck in our own stuff and we're projecting onto other people or whatever, we don't have the viewpoint, the vantage point. So that's part of what someone can bring that's, experienced with these kinds of, where essentially it's just, the machinations of our mind. How does our mind work, and tweaking and going off in this direction or that direction, and having a sense of that, because psychedelics just stir it all up.
Yeah, it does.
Psychedelics have been called non-specific amplifiers of what's already there. So that means whatever's there it just gets amplified. It's not like psychedelics will magically change your point of view entirely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of, oh, go ahead.
No, I think that it has kind of changed my point of view on quite a bit of things. Not like dramatically, like I think you're saying, like black and white, that I've completely flipped the switch, but I see things perspectively different than I've ever seen them before. I think that after the second one, I was scared and I was like, I don't know if I can fucking do this again. But now looking back at it and knowing where I can go now, I'm actually curious to see if anything else does come up that I think is all acknowledged, Also, the second time wasn't as crazy as the first time, though it was pretty fucking heavy. But I do see why integration is super important. I would like to go back a little. And because a lot of our listeners may not have ever done anything like this before, I'd love it if you could kind of paint the picture for us of what it looks like in the actual physical doing the mushrooms with a facilitator. Like some people are afraid to do it because they don't know what it's going to be like. And I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit of what it's like for people to do that.
Well, it's hard to describe the actual internal experience part.
Not the internal, maybe the external.
I can talk around it, though. So there's something that I like to call the 4 pillars of psychedelic facilitation, which is, from the facilitator's point of view, what does a facilitator bring? So one of those is the somatic piece, which is the body-based piece. Okay. We want to have because all of the saying, our issues are in our tissues. It's like, where do we hold those things? It's like we have a felt sense that we're no good, let's say, or we have a felt sense that we are, that we are good people. And that is the stuff that can show up when negativity shows up. What is that? It's a felt sense in the body. It's not like a mental thing. If it was just a mental thing, we could just think our way out of it, and it doesn't work.
It's interesting that you say that, because now I think about being a teenager. And at a certain age, I started developing back problems where I don't know why. I never could remember or figure out why. And I realized as you were talking that I started developing pains in my back because I was holding my trauma in my back.
Right.
Oh my God. And I
mean, that's the whole sort of one of the main pieces of Rosen method body work that I do is working with chronic muscular tension that comes from our unconscious things. And where do we store those things in the body? And how can we help, release that tension, which, is restricting us. Literally, it can restrict our breath so that we're taking smaller breaths than we could otherwise take. And you think about breathing, when you're taking a full breath, you're literally taking up more space. Do you feel like, a lot of us want to hide? Certainly in my early younger days, I totally was like wanting to hide. I was like, how small, how invisible can I be?
How small can I be? Yeah.
So a lot of us are, have been in that situation. And so how do we learn that it's okay to take up space? It's okay to be in the world. And so there's the physiological level part of it, which is the Rosen. So the somatic piece is, from a facilitation point of view, you want to be able to have that, enough of that knowledge to help, clients as they're going along. The trauma-informed piece is the therapeutic piece. And that's where you want to, if someone comes up, like someone once in a session said to me, you're here to help me, right? And they also said, I'm making you work too hard. And so to recognize that that is a statement that's saying, I don't feel like I'm worth helping. I'm putting you out too much.
Is this before they started or during? During. A lot of things come out that I didn't realize that I was saying too. I wish that I had recorded it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that's nice about that is when you have someone that recognizes what's going on, they can respond appropriately, like, oh no, I'm here because I want to support you. You deserve the support.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing something like that, particularly under the influence of a psychedelic, can really get in there and make people take a real pause, because it's like, wow, they've never heard that in their lives, and they're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Someone really, I'm not a burden to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
I
it's
can see that.
noticing those subtle things to be able to sort of loosely present the person with another way, a reflection that they are worth something, they are valued, they can take up space, they're not a burden, all those things. So that's the trauma piece.
Do you find that when you're in the middle of helping somebody through this type of journey, that they develop physical pains throughout it that weren't typically there before? Because I experienced that my first time.
Mm-hmm. You can, if a lot of things can show up. So it's a little bit, you just have to deal with things as they come up. But yeah, a lot of things can come up. A lot of things we do for distraction, it's too much. So it's back and forth with that. You just kind of have to work with whatever's showing up with the person. The other thing, moving on, is the personal psychedelic experience. The facilitator ideally knows the territory.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are, it's a bit of an argument in the therapeutic community. Maybe we don't need to have done psychedelics to support people, and
no,
I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea that somebody knows exactly what I'm going through and the process of it and why. I'm not sure I would trust somebody who has never experienced it and done the work themselves, because personally think you need to do the work yourself to understand that. That's my own opinion, though.
I'm definitely in that camp. So just to note that, that's one piece. And then the last piece that I think is important for facilitators anyway is to have the transpersonal piece. And another way to say that is the non-dual reality. That's when you start getting into the mystical realms and all is one. And what does that literally mean? And how might that show up in someone's description of what's going on? And to be able to recognize and work and talk that language as well. So it all kind of weaves together, all these different pieces, so that you can respond appropriately to what someone is saying, because they might throw in a bit of transpersonal, a bit of somatic, a bit of some trauma thing, and it's all kind of jumbled up. And so you got to be able to ideally, respond appropriately to cover what may seem like contradictions.
Right.
But
well,
really not.
It's crazy what the mind does too, because, I didn't see any kind of like weird things that were like breathing or moving or whatever. Everything was subconscious in my brain. And so I was seeing things inside of my head, in my third eye, not physical, because I kept my eyes closed, because every time I open my eyes, I would literally see dark entities. So I would close my eyes and I would fucking still see the dark entities, but this time they were in my brain and not in my eyesight. So I could handle that a little bit better, knowing they weren't physically there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was able to, I think, handle it a little better because it was in my head and I knew it was the battles inside my head and not physical.
Right. Now that was a good place, in the sense that some people could get a little further out to where they can't separate that, and they do feel that it's something outside themselves completely. And this is a whole discussion. Some people say there really are things outside, and some people say, they're not. And, rather than worry about that argument, because from a non-dual perspective, it doesn't even hold up. If we're all one, well, then what's inside is outside and what's outside is inside. So it's an irrelevant discussion in that sense. But how do you deal with it is the important part.
Right. And I think that someone like, say, myself, who happens to have certain type of abilities where I see, hear, think, feel things on a different level than other people, because I tend to be a little bit more, psychic medium-ish kind of thing. So I do see and hear other things that are just on the other side of some thin veil or whatever. And I think that I was able to see them more clearly, but it was none of the good stuff. It was all the dark shit. So that was better for me to keep my eyes closed and deal with it here than here, outside.
Also, the value, getting back to one of the other points you mentioned earlier, the value of having a sitter there. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, the sitter can just be sort of a support that can help you go through it. You know, like, I'm with you on this. I've got your hand, and so you can handle it. You know, I can help that. That's part of the problem. We get into these states and then we're like, oh my God, I'm lost. I have nothing, you know, I'm going to lose it. And so instead, if you have someone there that's very supportive with that, you know, you can face. It's kind of like, this gets back to attachment theory. When we're young, one of the things we need to learn is that when we have big emotions, our parent ideally is holding us and they're not upset. So we learn that we can have those big emotions and we can calm down. So it's like, it's through our caregiver relationships that ideally are good ones that can give us that sense that we can handle things, that we can. And so the journey, you know, we're kind of reenacting, in a sense, they call it earned attachment, you know, in the therapeutic language, where you can get that same sense of attachment through your therapist or, you know, facilitator, if you're having that kind of an experience. It all depends on what's coming up.
Right,
you know?
right.
So you get a sense that you can handle things. Anyway.
Yeah, I will say that I was lucky. I did have Christian there, and he was on a journey too. But this is the thing. In the very beginning, I could tell that shit was going down fast and that it was going to be crazy. And the minute it hit me and I knew it was going to be crazy, I just kept saying to him, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm going to ruin your journey, because this one is going to be fucking insane and I don't know if I can handle it by myself. And he just kept saying, no, it's okay. I'm here for you. And the only reason why I trusted him is because he knows literally everything about my trauma, like every fucking detail of my trauma. And so I felt comfortable with whatever would come out of my mouth. And about 30 minutes into my bad fucking craziness, he literally said, hey, after I'd said for the 100th time, I'm sorry, I'm ruining your journey. And he said, listen, I just realized that my journey is here to support your journey. And that is it. And he was there to support my journey both times. The second time I was a little more irritated with him than the first time, but we did it and we got through it. And, you know, it was just the emotions that I was feeling through what I was experiencing, not from something he was or wasn't doing. But I think that if he had known how to be a facilitator, or if I had actually been with a facilitator, I think the journey could have been a little less traumatic or a little less crazy for me to process in the end. I got there, thank goodness, but it would have been better.
It sounds like he was on the right track, though, by making it clear that, you know, you're not ruining his trip. You know, that's part of the our own, you know, self-worth situation. I don't deserve the help, you know. I'm ruining everyone else's thing, as if you don't count, you know. Well, you do count.
Well, I felt bad because I didn't know what he was going through. And I kept saying to him, what are you experiencing? Are you feeling the same things I am? He's like, no. I said, what are you feeling? He goes, nothing. And I go, what do you mean fucking nothing? What do you mean nothing? And he said, actually, I feel like I'm outside of my body just watching us. And he said, so I'm able to observe this differently and I'm here to support you. And that's when he said that, then I was like, okay, I can accept this because I need it.
Okay.
You know?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I facilitate, I'm never under the influence, you know, I never.
Yeah. Right. Nor should you be.
Yeah, that's my philosophy
We were
anyway.
just friends having fun. I didn't know I was going to take some fucking wackadoodle thing to heal myself. Jeez,
Right. Yeah. So, so
crazy.
getting back to your other point is, what is it like, as someone taking the journey? Now it depends on how, like I have a whole this little thing that I go through with people when I start. I do like a little ritual at the beginning where I call in the 7 directions. I call in, and I don't actually say call in when I'm doing it. I like to say tune in, because the energies are always there. And I like to point that out. It's like people think, oh, we're going to call them in. They're over across the street. Let's call them in. No, but they're already here. They're always with us. So it's tuning in to the energies. So the 7 directions.
Making yourself aware that they're there.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, they're already here. We're kind of acknowledging each of the directions and the qualities associated with the 7 directions.
I love that.
And it's kind of my own blend. The ritual is kind of my own blend of a number of different things, traditions, because it's not all one, specific thing. From there, I like to tune into our innate healing intelligence, which you probably heard about with regard to psychedelics. They talk about it. And that can be a little vague, and some people take issue with that. But I think of it very concretely, like what grows your hair? What grows your nails? How does your body know how to grow? That's intelligent. And so that's part of our innate, it's like when you cut your finger, your body knows how to heal. We help a Band-Aid or whatever, but the body is the one that does the actual healing. So we're tuning into that part of ourselves that, given the good conditions, the ground to reorient and put ourselves more together, become more integrated in a sense. So then I also call in and tune into the ancestors. And I love to talk about ancestors in this interesting way. It's like we're trying to clear our trauma. Well, our ancestors had the trauma too. That's why we still have it, because they didn't clear it. So I like to say our ancestors are rooting for us, because if we clear it, it's going to clear it up and down the line. In that transpersonal sense, everything is happening now. There's no past, no future, nothing. Now. Now is it. So if we clear it, that's it. It's like, so it's a really nice, kind of poetic way to feel more supported, more, like everyone's there, like, oh.
Do you when people go in to do this with you, are they sitting down in like a recliner? Are they laying down on something? Is it pillows? Is it setting, like lights and music? I mean, what is the physicality of it like for people?
So that's something that we go over at the pre-session as to where do they want to do it. Because when I work with people, I go to them. I don't have them come to me. And I always find it's better because people feel more safe in their own environment, and they don't have to go anywhere at the end. Who wants to get into an Uber or get picked up or, change the whole vibe? It's like, let's just chill out.
I wouldn't have been able to.
Right. So that's one thing I talk about is like, so do you want, I think it's better for people to generally lie down, maybe propped up a little bit on top. But however someone's comfortable. So my big rule is what makes you feel safer. That's the big criteria. Do you feel safer in this room or in that room? Do you feel safer on this couch or in your own room on the bed? Do you feel safer on the floor? Where is it? And I'll ask them to kind of feel into that. And we can always shift if they're not feeling comfortable in one spot. But most people are on a couch or on a bed. And they're propped up a little bit, and it's very comfortable. Blankets are handy and nearby, and sometimes a weighted blanket. It just depends on the person. Which is one of there's what I call the 5 pillars of psychedelic journeys, and so one of those is what you're talking about, what we're talking about right now, setting. That's the actual environment, and so that is the house, the location. One of the things I have people do is create an energetic safe space the day of, which is where you're visualizing a white sphere that's around your entire space, like your whole house or your whole apartment or whatever it is. Because we have the physical safe space where we're actually physically in, and then we have the energetic version with that imagined white sphere covering all of us. So we're really doubly telling ourselves physiologically, somatically, energetically, we're safe. Whatever, all of you is welcome here. Another thing I like to say, all of you is welcome. So
I like that.
The dark parts, the light parts, everything. So, because we don't want to, it's like our parents said, well, you can be nice, but if you're mad, you're going to have to go to your room. That's not accepting all of your parts.
When you find that, you're going through a session with somebody, when they're going through kind of a mental and emotional purge is what I felt like. Do you find that a lot of people also physically purge? Because I experienced that the first time, not the second time, but the first time I had a lot of physical purging during it for
in the
6
form of
hours.
like actually throwing up?
Throwing up, having to pee a lot, having to shite my pants. Though I did not shite my pants. Okay.
Good.
Let's get that clear.
And
I had
that's
to
no
go
bull.
and purge. Like for me, Paul, the first one was a mental battle with dark entities. And it started with myself. Then it went to my ancestral. I cleared my ancestral path. Then it went from that to my kids and then everybody around them who were associated in their lives. I could mentally do that. Then it went to my friends. I mentally, verbally would say, oh, it's Angela's turn now. And then I would purge clear theirs. And I did this for like 6 hours. And after every single healing, purging, I had to purge. After every one. It was wild. It was almost like I absorbed it and then I was just getting rid of it.
Right. That's a lot to go through with all of that. So yeah, it depends on, again, if someone's going through something like that, my approach is how can I support them? And if you're kind of feeling into everyone else and sort of sounds like you're trying to clear some of their energy, is that something that you wanted to do in this journey? And what was it that was, kind of directing you in that direction as opposed to staying with yourself? So these are just questions to think about.
Yeah. For me, I kept hearing that you're a healer. I said, why is this happening? You're a healer. I kept saying why, and you're healing. And I could visually in my head understand that once I'd cleared everything from my space, everybody else's energy is still coming into mine. And it felt like I needed to go through and clear out everybody's darkness, demons, negative energy that was still attached to them so that it would not interfere with my clear space. So all the people that were intimately close to me, kids, family, friends, whatever, business acquaintances, I was doing that so that it wouldn't come back onto me again. Does that make sense? I needed to clear the whole path. I don't know. That's where my head went anyway.
It's an interesting place. So that would be something that would be well worth exploring a lot in integration, because there's a lot of directions you could go with that specific thing.
Right.
Was it a distraction more from deeper trauma that you had to go to outside? Could have been that. Is there a different way to handle that?
I just felt like I was so cleared out and there was still a lot of time that I was still going to be handling this drug or this medication or this, psychedelic moment. For me, it just seemed like the natural step to do. It just was something that I needed to do. It was something that I needed to do for myself as well as the other people in my life. And I've always felt like I'm a little bit of a healer anyway. I can remove energies. I can physically touch somebody that's hurting in some way and it'll lessen the pain. I don't
Right.
know. It's just something I've been able to do for a long time. I have never really explored it, but I felt
Well,
like
this,
in this, it was showing me to
yeah, I
do
was
it.
going to say that could be part of it as well, showing you the process and sort of validating in a sense. And then also, it could also be showing you that it can be, maybe there's another way to do it where you're not having to purge
Mm,
so much.
could be,
You know,
yeah.
there's
Interesting.
something about Rosen method bodywork has this way of talking about it where when you're working on someone, if you're doing it, I want to say in tune, you don't need to like shake off their bad energy because you're both being nurtured. It's not like,
Interesting.
oh, I've got your bad juju and now I have to get rid of it. Because in a sense, if I'm a healer and I'm going up to you and saying, well, I just don't want to get your bad juju. I mean, does
I get what you're saying. Yes. It
that
wasn't
feel
quite
like a
like
good
that,
healer?
but
No, I know. To me, I'm just, exaggerating to make the point, but
yeah.
it's like, you're not going to feel as comfortable about, because I'm already saying, oh, you've got this stuff.
Right.
It's more like, I'm going to be able to nurture both of us through this process,
I
not
love that.
just, so, I'm always a little leery of some of that kind of thinking of the
I don't know. It just felt like it was something I was destined to do. If I was in this position, and I had done the work for myself and my ancestors and my children, it's like, I want to have a better relationship with all these people in my life. So I was going to town.
Right. It sounds great, really.
So we only have 7 minutes left, which is crazy. Time goes by fast, but I want to talk about the integration the day after, or that, afterwards. How
Right.
does that look?
Well, it can look a lot of different ways, and I think one of the big things is everyone talks about integration and like, what is it? It's like, the standard quote psychedelic definition is, and I'll just read it here because it's just like so common. It's the successful embodiment of into one's life of the spiritual, psychological insights, emotions, and sensations and visions received during psychedelic journeys to help us support our healing, growth, and well-being. So it's the embodiment of whatever we've learned, essentially, through
Okay.
however they came in. That's sort of your standard psychedelic definition. How do we take integrate what we saw and felt into our day-to-day life? Well, that's pretty vague, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay. There's a lot of things, everyone advises like journaling and doing some meditation and all of that kind of thing. So I like to describe it also as integrating shadow parts into our selves, such that more choices and feelings are available to us. And so what does that mean? The shadow parts are the parts that we don't know so well. That's like behind the locked door. And so once we acknowledge them and then we're comfortable with them, let's say we're afraid to cry. So then we learn that it's okay to cry. And now that's in our repertoire. Before we always avoided crying, and now it's okay to cry. So we're actually bigger because we have more choice, more emotions available, and we're more integrated because that emotion is now integrated into us, whereas before it was kind of disowned on the side. So integration is like getting bigger, embodying our shadow parts. And there's a really great quote from Dan Siegel, where he describes it really well. And he's not relating to psychedelics, but it's the same thing.
Okay.
The movement toward well-being is a movement toward integration. As integration is achieved across the numerous dimensions of living, a sense of the unity of being is revealed.
Interesting.
And so that's a really great summation of
I love
integration,
that.
whether it's psychedelic or not. And so psychedelics, you're just applying a little more specifically in the psychedelic context. If you were in a therapy session, you'd say, well, integrating the therapy session, but it's all the same thing ultimately, not, another
Though
way.
I've been through a lot of different types of therapy, and not one of them ever tried to integrate any of that shit.
Yeah, well,
You just go home and try to process it on your own, and all you've done is talk about it. So it doesn't really,
right.
that doesn't make sense. But in this world where you're really getting deep and really opening up some things that, that your mind is letting go of or exposing to you, integration just really makes sense. At always, I mean, even with therapy.
Yeah, and another way to put it is when your internal and external parts are in integrity with each other. Like what you're feeling is what you're showing, and what you're showing is what you're feeling, as opposed to
pretending that you're better or you're happy when you're not, or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, when our outside expression matches our internal feelings. So that's
Right.
another way to talk about integration. There's a lot of, and psychedelics can certainly help with that process. But that's, again, psychedelics are just a tool. The goal, I like to say, the healing is the star, not the psychedelics. A lot of people get too carried away. The psychedelics is the star. It's going to do it all for me. No, sorry.
I agree.
The healing is the star. The psychedelic is a tool toward that. And there's a lot of tools, and that's just one tool.
Yeah, I get that. I didn't know it that way when I went into it. I see that now. Yeah. I like that you say that the healing is the star, that is the core of it all. I like that there are different tools, but this tool is actually quite fascinating.
Yeah, it is. There's one other thing I like to make in terms of this process. How we go about healing is the healing. So how do we treat ourselves on this journey? How are we trying to blast ourselves with dynamite and take like the biggest dose possible, or psychedelics or whatever, go through some intense therapy that's really torturous? It's like throwing yourself in the deep end of the pool when you can't swim and saying swim or die. Now that's traumatic.
It is.
So how we go about healing, if we can be tender toward ourselves, we be compassionate toward ourselves through the process, honor our fear, say, okay, I'm too afraid to do this right now. That's okay. Can we honor that? If we can that's the healing, like treating ourselves with the kindness that we didn't often get. So that's
I love that.
Yeah.
I actually, that resonates very strongly in me. Thank you for that. Yeah. I think my brain needs to process that, but that really resonated in my brain. That made a lot of sense, that I never thought about it that way. Interesting. I like that. Thank you.
I haven't heard a lot of people say that, but that's, just from my own experience over, a fairly long time of my own healing and feeling into different modalities or methods, some that are a little harsher than others. We're it's like this whole tough love thing. No.
Right.
Just no.
I think that I've always felt like, especially over this last 4 years, that I just needed to hurry up and get better. Just heal my fucking self. Do it. And I've not been kind at all. And then here I'm thinking, I'm just going to take these psychedelics. It's going to clear out the last of the cobwebs and I'm going to be just fine. And I wasn't kind to myself there either. And I'm finding that the more I'm trying to be gentle and kinder to myself, the more of the world tries to be harsher and meaner to me. I don't know. That's my own, bullshit that's running around in my head these days. But it's been a little challenging. So I don't know. Maybe
if you're feeling kinder toward yourself, you're feeling the world is instead being harsher.
Yep.
Well, how can you be toward that, toward the harshness of the world? because things don't just shift immediately anyway. It's like, and are we really being kind to ourselves in some ways? Are we really honoring that it's okay to not want to have to go? It's imagine a little child that you're talking to, and you're like, rush, get out, go.
Yeah. Well, I do find that my brain is thinking in ways that it never thought of before. That the psychedelics has opened up a channel in my head that I am able to accomplish, do, think, feel things that I never thought possible. I do know that it opened my mind in wild ways that I haven't even realized yet. So when you say things, I'm hearing them completely different, and they're settling in kinder and gentler and like clicking into place. So that is like wild, and I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here, Paul. We are now out of time, but I'd love to have you back to talk more about this topic.
Sure.
We get a lot of people who say, "Oh, talk more about something," and we will definitely be having you back. I appreciate you being here today. To all of you who come and listen every week, thank you so much for being here. We can't have the show without you. We are here for you. That's why we do these episodes. So thank you again for being here. We're going to be here again, same time, same place next week. And until then, let's just keep this shit real. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.